"Mom, I need help. This date feels wrong." Naomi Carter sent the message while standing at the sink in a restaurant bathroom, water running even though she wasn't washing her hands. She needed the noise to ground herself. Needed something real to cut through the panic rising in her chest. 28 years old. Perfect makeup. A navy satin dress she'd chosen because it made her look composed. None of it mattered. The man waiting outside wasn't a stranger. He was her past, resurrected by guilt and family pressure. Marcus, the ex who cheated. The ex who apologized just well enough. The ex her mother believed deserved one proper conversation. Her phone buzzed. "You're reacting emotionally," her mother replied. "Finish the dinner. Don't create a scene." Naomi closed her eyes. She had spent her whole life being careful not to disappoint. Careful not to upset anyone. Careful not to say no too loudly. So she did what came easiest. She went back. She sat across from Marcus. Listened. Smiled when expected. Let the discomfort crawl up her spine without acknowledging it. What Naomi didn't know was that someone across the room had been watching the entire exchange. Not casually, not with curiosity, but with intent. And when Marcus reached for her arm, tightening his grip just enough to remind her who he thought was in control, the stranger stood up. Because some moments don't allow hesitation. And some choices decide whether you walk away or don't walk away at all. Before we go any further, if you've ever felt pressured to stay in a situation that made your instincts scream leave, hit the like button and subscribe. Comment where you are watching and what time it is over there. This story is for you. Naomi's chair scraped softly against the floor as she sat back down at the table. Marcus smiled like nothing had happened. Like she hadn't just disappeared to the bathroom. Like she wasn't breathing through her teeth to stay calm. "You okay?" he asked, already cutting into his steak. "Bathroom lines here are crazy." Naomi nodded. She always nodded. The restaurant buzzed with low conversations and clinking glasses. But at their table, the air felt tight. Marcus talked about work. About how stressful things had been. About how lonely he'd felt after they broke up. He spoke like a man explaining a mistake he expected to be forgiven for. Naomi listened, her fingers wrapped tightly around her water glass, the condensation soaking into her palm. When she tried to respond, Marcus interrupted her. When she tried to change the subject, he leaned closer. "You never give people space to be human," he said quietly, smiling as if it were a joke. "That's why things fall apart." Something in Naomi's chest sank. She glanced around the room, searching for something she couldn't name. A distraction, an exit, a sign. That's when she felt it. Marcus's hand slid across the table and closed around her wrist. Not violent, not dramatic, just firm enough to stop her from pulling away. "Don't do that," he said under his breath. "Don't shut down on me again." Naomi's body went still before her mind could react. She didn't shout, didn't pull away. Her instincts told her not to. Across the room, a man Naomi had never noticed before set his glass down. Slowly, deliberately. He had been watching her from the moment she returned to the table. Not staring, not hovering, just observing the way her shoulders tightened, the way her eyes flicked toward the exit, the way her smile didn't reach her face. When Marcus tightened his grip, the man stood. He adjusted his jacket once and started walking toward them. Naomi didn't see him yet. She was too busy realizing something terrifying. If no one intervened, she didn't know how she was getting out of that chair. Naomi felt it before she saw it. A shift, the kind that makes a room feel smaller all at once. Marcus loosened his grip, just slightly. His attention pulled somewhere over her shoulder. Naomi followed his gaze and saw a man standing beside their table. Tall, calm, dressed simply but expensively, like someone who didn't need to prove anything. "I'm sorry," the man said, his voice low and even. "I believe you're sitting in my seat." Marcus frowned. "What see?" The man didn't look at him. His eyes were on Naomi. "You don't look comfortable," he continued, as if they were mid-conversation. "Would you like to move?" It wasn't loud. It wasn't aggressive. But it landed. Naomi's heart slammed against her ribs. No one had asked her that question all night. Marcus laughed sharply. She's fine. We're together. The man finally turned his attention to him. Then you won't mind letting go of her wrist. The table went quiet. Marcus looked down, then back up, confusion flickering across his face. Slowly, too slowly, he released her. Naomi inhaled, sharp and sudden, like she'd been underwater. I asked her a question, the man said. He looked back at Naomi. Do you want to move? For a split second, Naomi froze. Years of conditioning told her not to embarrass anyone, not to make things awkward, not to cause problems. Then she stood. Yes, she said, surprising herself with how steady her voice sounded. Marcus pushed his chair back. This is ridiculous. Sit down, Naomi. She didn't look at him. The man stepped aside, creating a clear path away from the table. It wasn't dramatic. It was deliberate, like he'd done this before. As they walked toward the exit, Naomi felt every eye in the room on her back. She expected Marcus to follow, to shout, to grab her again. He didn't. Whatever he saw in the man walking beside her made him stay seated. Outside, the night air hit Naomi's face and she sucked in a breath she didn't realize she'd been holding. Thank you, she said quickly. I didn't know how to leave. You don't have to explain, the man replied. My name is Jae-min. He stopped near the curb, leaving a respectful distance between them. I can call you a ride, he said. Or I can wait with you until you feel steady again. Either way, you won't be alone. There it was again. The choice. Naomi felt something loosen in her chest. I'd appreciate if you stayed, she said. Jae-min nodded once. Inside the restaurant, Marcus was already on his phone, and Naomi had the sudden, unsettling feeling that this night wasn't over yet. They stood on the sidewalk longer than Naomi expected. Traffic rolled past. Laughter drifted out from the restaurant doors every time they opened. Life kept moving like nothing had just happened. Naomi's hands were still shaking. You don't have to explain anything, Jae-min said again, softer this time. But if you want to sit for a moment, there's a bench across the street. She nodded, grateful that he wasn't rushing her. Grateful that he wasn't asking questions she didn't yet have answers for. They sat in silence. Naomi pulled her phone from her purse without thinking. 12 missed notifications. All from her mother. She didn't open them. I should probably go home, Naomi said, more to herself than to him. I can wait with you until your ride gets here, Jae-min replied. Or I can leave. Whatever feels safest. Safest. That word landed differently than everything else she'd heard that night. Naomi ordered an Uber with trembling fingers. The estimated time popped up. 7 minutes. Too long. Her phone buzzed again. This time it was a call. Mom. Naomi stared at the screen. Jae-min didn't look over. He gave her privacy without being asked. She answered. Naomi, what on earth are you doing? Her mother's voice came through sharp and breathless. Marcus just called me. He said you walked out on him. In the middle of dinner. Naomi closed her eyes. He grabbed me, she said quietly. I wasn't okay. A pause. Then a sigh. Baby, men get emotional sometimes. You can't assume the worst every time you feel uncomfortable. You embarrassed him. Naomi felt something twist deep in her chest. I didn't feel safe, she said again, firmer now. You always say that when things get serious, her mother replied. You're 28, Naomi. You can't keep running every time something feels hard. Running. That was the word her mother always used. Naomi looked up and met Jaemin's eyes across the bench. He wasn't listening, not obviously, but something about his presence made her feel steadier. This wasn't hard, Naomi said. It was wrong. Her mother exhaled sharply. So now you're throwing everything away because some stranger interrupted your date? The Uber pulled up to the curb. Naomi stood. I'm not throwing anything away, she said. I'm leaving. Naomi. She ended the call. The silence afterward was loud. Jae-min stood as well, keeping a respectful distance. Your ride's here, he said. She hesitated. I just want you to know. she said slowly, choosing her words carefully. You didn't save me. You just reminded me I had a choice. He nodded once. That's usually enough. She got into the car. As it pulled away, Naomi watched him grow smaller in the side mirror, standing alone on the sidewalk like he hadn't just stepped into the middle of her life. Her phone buzzed again. A text from her mother. We will talk about this tomorrow. You owe me that. Naomi rested her head against the window. For the first time, the weight of that word, "oh," felt unbearable, because she was starting to realize something she'd never allowed herself to think before. The most dangerous person in her life wasn't the man who grabbed her wrist. It was the one who kept telling her to stay. Naomi didn't sleep that night. She lay on her bed fully dressed, the navy satin still clinging to her skin like proof of something she hadn't imagined. Every time she closed her eyes, she felt Marcus's fingers again. Not the pain, there hadn't been much of that, but the certainty in his grip. The assumption that she would comply. Her phone sat face down on the nightstand. She didn't turn it over. Morning came quietly, too quietly. Sunlight filtered through the blinds of her apartment, landing across the framed photo on her dresser. Naomi and her mother at her college graduation. Her arm around Naomi's waist, smiling like pride and ownership were the same thing. Her phone buzzed. A message. Mom, we need to talk today. Not over text. Naomi exhaled slowly. She knew what that meant. By noon, she was sitting at her kitchen table with a mug of coffee she hadn't touched, staring at the same message like it might rewrite itself if she waited long enough. Didn't. Her mother arrived just after 1. Naomi heard the knock and felt her chest tighten before she even stood. 3 firm taps. Controlled. Familiar. When she opened the door, her mother stepped inside without waiting to be invited. You scared me last night, she said immediately. Not angry, not concerned, just firm. Do you have any idea how that looked? Naomi closed the door behind her. I told you I wasn't okay. Her mother waved a hand dismissively as she set her purse on the counter. Marcus told me what happened. He said things got heated. That you misunderstood. Naomi's jaw tightened. He grabbed me. A pause. Her mother sighed, rubbing her temple. Naomi, you're focusing on the wrong thing. That sentence landed heavier than anything else. The wrong thing, Naomi repeated. Yes, you always do this. You fixate on one moment instead of the bigger picture. Her mother turned, finally looking at her fully. Do you know how hard it is to find a man who wants commitment at your age? Naomi felt something inside her shift. Not snap. Harden. He cheated on me. He apologized. He put his hands on me. He didn't hurt you. The words echoed in the small kitchen. Naomi stared at her mother, really stared this time. The woman who'd raised her, protected her, loved her fiercely in ways that often felt like control. He didn't have to hurt me, Naomi said quietly. I didn't feel safe. Her mother's lips pressed into a thin line. You're being dramatic. There it was. The word that had followed Naomi her entire life. Dramatic when she cried too much. Dramatic when she said no. Dramatic when she trusted her instincts. You embarrassed him, her mother continued. You embarrassed me. Linda called me in tears. Do you know how that made me look? Naomi felt the heat rise behind her eyes, but she didn't cry. She refused to. This isn't about you, Naomi said. Her mother laughed once, sharp and humorless. Everything you do reflects on me, Naomi, whether you like it or not. The room went quiet. Naomi realized something then. Something uncomfortable and undeniable. Her mother wasn't afraid for her. She was afraid of what Naomi's choices said about her. I'm not seeing Marcus again, Naomi said. Her mother stiffened. You're being stubborn. I'm being done. You don't throw away a future because of one bad night. Naomi met her gaze. I'm not throwing anything away. I'm choosing myself. The words felt foreign, heavy, powerful. Her mother picked up her purse slowly, like she was gathering herself. You're making a mistake, she said. And when this blows up in your face, don't say I didn't warn you. She walked to the door, paused with her hand on the handle. "And Naomi," she added without turning around. "That man you left with? He's not who you think he is." The door closed softly behind her. Naomi stood alone in her apartment, heart pounding, because for the first time her mother hadn't sounded protective. She'd sounded threatened, and Naomi knew, deep in her gut, that walking away from Marcus was only the beginning. Whatever came next would cost her more than she was prepared for. Naomi didn't move for a long time after the door closed. The apartment felt different, quieter but not peaceful, like the air itself was waiting for something else to happen. She sank onto the couch and finally checked her phone. More messages. Not from Marcus. From people she hadn't expected. Linda, Marcus's mother. An aunt she barely spoke to. Even a cousin she hadn't seen since childhood. Different words. Same message. Concern disguised as disappointment. Advice wrapped in judgment. Your mother is just worried about you. Marcus is a good man who made a mistake. At some point you have to stop running. Running. Naomi locked her phone and set it face down on the coffee table. Her wrist still ached. Not visibly bruised. Nothing dramatic. Nothing anyone could point to and say, "See, this is wrong." That, she realized, was the problem. If there were a bruise, her mother might have believed her. If there were witnesses willing to speak, people might have taken sides. But discomfort was invisible. Fear was inconvenient. By late afternoon, Naomi forced herself to shower, to wash the night off her skin. The water was hot enough to sting, but she stayed under it anyway, letting it pound against her shoulders until her breathing slowed. When she stepped out, her phone was ringing again. This time, it wasn't her mother. It was Marcus. She stared at the screen until it stopped. A moment passed. Then another call. She let it ring out too. A text followed almost immediately. "Marcus, we need to talk like adults. You made things worse than they had to be." Naomi felt a chill creep up her spine. She typed, deleted, then typed again before finally sending one sentence. "Naomi, do not contact me again." The reply came fast. "Marcus, you don't get to decide that unilaterally." Her chest tightened. She blocked the number. The silence afterward should have felt like relief. Instead, it felt temporary. That evening, Naomi sat at her kitchen counter with a bowl of cereal she didn't want, scrolling mindlessly through social media. Engagement announcements, baby photos, smiling couples captioned with words like grateful and blessed. She wondered how many of those smiles hid compromises no one talked about. Her phone buzzed. An unknown number. She hesitated, then answered. "Naomi Carter?" a woman's voice asked. "Yes. This is Marisol from the restaurant last night. I was your server." Naomi straightened. "Yes. I'm not sure if I should be calling," Marisol continued, lowering her voice. "But I saw what happened. With the man at your table." Naomi's breath caught. "I just wanted you to know," Marisol said. "You weren't imagining things. The way he grabbed you. The way you froze. I noticed." Tears burned behind Naomi's eyes, sudden and unwelcome. "Thank you," she whispered. "There was another man," Marisol added. "The one who walked you out. He asked me to keep an eye on you before he left. Said to call if you needed a witness." Naomi's heart skipped. "Did he say his name?" "No," Marisol replied. "But he didn't look like someone who makes empty promises." After the call ended, Naomi sat very still. Someone had seen it. Someone had believed her. And somehow that mattered more than she'd expected. Her phone buzzed again. This time it was a text from her mother. "Mom, I spoke to Marcus again. He's devastated. We will fix this." Naomi stared at the message. "Fix this." She typed slowly, carefully. "Naomi, there is nothing to fix. I'm done. Please respect that." The typing indicator appeared, disappeared, appeared again. Then the reply came. "Mom, you don't understand what you're doing yet." Naomi set the phone down, her hands shaking. For the first time, she wondered if her mother truly believed she knew Naomi better than Naomi knew herself. And for the first time, Naomi understood something else too. If she didn't hold this line now, If she let herself be pulled back one more time, she might never get free. Outside, the city lights flickered on as night settled over Atlanta. Somewhere out there, Marcus was angry. Her mother was plotting. And the man who had intervened once had vanished as quietly as he'd appeared. Naomi didn't know what tomorrow would bring. But she knew this. Whatever came next would test whether choosing herself was something she could survive. Naomi woke up to the sound of her phone vibrating against the nightstand. Once, twice, again. She didn't answer. By the time she sat up, her screen was already filled with notifications. Missed calls, voicemails, a calendar invite she hadn't accepted. Lunch with Mom. Today, 1 p.m. Naomi stared at it, her stomach sinking. She hadn't agreed to that. She swung her legs out of bed and stood slowly, her body still heavy with exhaustion. The events of the last 24 hours felt unreal, like they belonged to someone else's life. In the bathroom, she rolled up the sleeve of her pajama top. A faint mark circled her wrist. Not dark, not obvious, but there. Proof that existed whether anyone acknowledged it or not. Her phone buzzed again. Mom. I don't want this to turn into something ugly. Let's talk like adults. The word ugly made Naomi flinch. She showered, dressed, and tried to focus on work emails, but nothing stuck. Her thoughts kept circling the same question. Why was everyone so determined to make her doubt herself? At 11:47 a.m., someone knocked on her door. Naomi froze. She wasn't expecting anyone. The knock came again. Firm. Familiar. Her heart started racing before she even reached the door. She opened it. Marcus stood in the hallway. He looked tired, rumpled, the image of a man who wanted to be pitied. You blocked me, he said, like an accusation. Naomi's hand tightened on the doorframe. You're not supposed to be here. I just want to talk, he replied quickly. Your mom said you were upset, that this all got blown out of proportion. There it was again. Her mother's voice, speaking through him. I told you not to contact me, Naomi said. Marcus stepped closer. Not into her space. Not yet, but close enough to make his presence felt. You can't just erase people when things get uncomfortable, he said. That's not how adult relationships work. Naomi felt the familiar pull, the instinct to explain, to justify, to soften her words. She resisted it. This isn't a conversation, she said. You need to leave. Marcus's expression hardened. You really think that guy from the restaurant is better? He snapped. You don't even know who he is. Naomi's breath caught. How do you know about him? She asked. Marcus hesitated. Just for a second. Then he smiled. People talk. Naomi felt a chill creep up her spine. You should go, she said again, firmer this time. Marcus stared at her, eyes dark, calculating. You're making a mistake, he said quietly. And when you realize that, don't expect everyone to be so patient. Naomi didn't reply. She stepped back and closed the door. She locked it. Her hands were shaking now. She leaned against the door, listening for footsteps. After a moment, she heard them retreat down the hall. Naomi slid down to the floor, her heart pounding. Her phone buzzed. Mom, Marcus told me you're being unreasonable. I don't like how you're handling this. Naomi stared at the message, disbelief giving way to something colder. Her mother hadn't asked why Marcus was at her apartment. Hadn't asked if Naomi was okay. She'd already taken a side. Naomi typed slowly. Naomi, he came to my apartment. I did not invite him. The typing indicator appeared almost immediately. Mom, you're twisting things again. He was worried about you. Naomi dropped her phone onto the floor. For the first time, fear gave way to clarity. This wasn't about one dinner, or one man, or one bad decision. This was about control. About who got to decide what Naomi's boundaries meant. She stood up, wiped her hands on her jeans, and did something she'd never done before. She opened her laptop and started documenting everything. Dates, times, messages, calls, screenshots saved into a folder she labeled simply, in case. Her phone buzzed again. An unknown number. Naomi hesitated, then answered. Naomi, a calm male voice said. "This is Jae-min. I hope I'm not calling at a bad time." Her chest tightened. "No," she said softly. "It's actually a good time." There was a brief pause on the other end. "I wanted to check in," he continued. "Not to interfere, just to make sure you're safe." Naomi closed her eyes, because somehow, without asking questions or demanding explanations, he'd said the one thing no one else had. "I don't think this is over," she admitted. His voice was steady when he replied. "It usually isn't." The line went quiet for a beat. Then he added carefully, "If anything changes, anything at all, call me." Naomi hung up and stared at her phone. Outside her window, a car idled for a moment longer than necessary, then drove away. Naomi stepped back from the glass. She finally understood. Walking away had been the right choice, but it had also made her visible. Before we continue, if you've ever had to choose between keeping the peace and protecting yourself, hit the like button and subscribe. Stories like this only reach the people who need them when you support them. Naomi didn't leave her apartment that day. She canceled meetings, silenced notifications, and let the city exist without her for a few hours. The world outside her windows moved on as if nothing had changed, but inside her chest, everything felt unstable, like the ground had shifted and no one else noticed. Her laptop sat open on the kitchen table. The folder labeled "in case" stared back at her. She added more screenshots. Her mother's messages. Marcus's texts before she blocked him. The calendar invite she never accepted. Each click felt both empowering and humiliating. She hated that she needed proof. Hated that instinct wasn't enough. That fear had to be justified. By noon, the silence broke. A knock. Not sharp this time. Measured. Naomi's heart jumped anyway. She approached the door quietly and checked the peephole. Not Marcus. Not her mother. A woman stood in the hallway. Mid-40s. Well-dressed. Calm. Holding a leather portfolio like she belonged there. Naomi hesitated, then opened the door a few inches. "Yes. Naomi Carter?" the woman asked. "Yes. My name is Elaine Porter. I'm an attorney. I represent Marcus." Naomi's stomach dropped. "I don't wish to come inside," Elaine continued smoothly. "This won't take long." Naomi opened the door fully but stayed where she was. "What does Marcus want?" she asked. Elaine glanced down at her portfolio. "He's concerned about the narrative you're creating. Walking out of a public restaurant. Blocking communication. Telling people he made you feel unsafe." Naomi felt her pulse spike. "He grabbed me." Elaine nodded, as if she'd expected that. "Marcus admits there was a misunderstanding. He regrets that the situation escalated." Misunderstanding. That word again. "We're asking you," Elaine continued, "to refrain from making any statements that could damage his reputation, especially statements that could be construed as defamatory." Naomi stared at her. "Are you threatening me?" Elaine smiled politely. "I'm advising you." Naomi laughed once. Came out sharp and brittle. "He showed up at my apartment uninvited." Elaine's smile faded slightly. "Marcus told us he was concerned for your emotional state." There it was. The same language. Different mouth. "This conversation is over," Naomi said. Elaine inclined her head. "Of course. Just understand that actions have consequences." When the door closed, Naomi leaned against it, her legs shaking. This was happening faster than she'd expected. Her phone buzzed. A text from her mother. "Mom, we need to resolve this before it turns into something serious." Naomi slid down onto the floor. Her mother knew. Not about the lawyer, but about the pressure. And instead of protecting Naomi from it, she was trying to manage it. Naomi stood, walked back to the kitchen, and stared at her laptop. She added a new subfolder, legal. That evening, Naomi finally did something she'd been avoiding. She called Jae-min. He answered on the second ring. "Naomi." Her voice shook despite her effort. Marcus sent a lawyer. Silence on the other end. Not surprised. Just attentive. "What did they say?" he asked. She told him everything. When she finished, Jaemin spoke carefully. You did the right thing documenting. And you did the right thing telling me. Why? Naomi asked quietly. Why are you involved? Another pause. Because once people start using pressure instead of conversation, he said, things tend to escalate. Naomi swallowed. You make it sound like you've seen this before. I have. She hesitated. My mother is trying to fix it. I know, he replied. That stopped her. You know? She called me, Jaemin said. Naomi's breath caught. What? Yesterday evening, he continued. She wanted to understand who I was, what my intentions were, whether I was safe. Naomi closed her eyes. What did you tell her? The truth, he said. As much of it as she could hear. And she didn't like it. Naomi let out a shaky laugh. She never does. Jaemin's voice softened. Naomi, I need to tell you something. Not to frighten you, but because I respect you. Her grip tightened on the phone. Marcus isn't acting alone, he said. And this isn't about reconciliation anymore. The words landed heavily. Then what is it about? Control, Jaemin replied. An image. And making sure you don't disrupt the version of events that benefits him. Naomi thought of the lawyer, the phrasing, the calm threat, her mother's insistence. So what do I do? Naomi asked. For now, he said, you stay visible. You don't isolate. And you don't let anyone pressure you into silence. I don't want you fixing this for me, Naomi said quickly. I wouldn't, he replied. I'm not here to rescue you. She believed him. That scared her more than reassurance would have. The next few days passed in a blur. Naomi went back to work, smiled through meetings, pretended her life hadn't quietly become a chessboard. Marcus didn't contact her again, but others did. Mutual friends, church acquaintances, even a former coworker who just wanted to check in. The message was always the same. Marcus was hurting. Her mother was worried. This didn't need to get messy. Naomi began to understand something chilling. They weren't trying to hear her. They were trying to contain her. On Friday evening, Naomi's mother showed up again. This time, she brought someone with her. A man Naomi recognized vaguely from church events. Gray hair, gentle smile, the kind of man people trusted without question. This is Pastor Reynolds, her mother said. Naomi stiffened. Why is he here? To help us talk, her mother replied. Productively. Naomi crossed her arms. I didn't ask for mediation. Pastor Reynolds smiled kindly. I'm just here to listen. They sat at the kitchen table. Naomi felt like she was on trial. Marcus is struggling, her mother began. He's embarrassed, confused. He doesn't understand why you're punishing him. I'm not punishing him, Naomi said. I'm protecting myself. Pastor Reynolds nodded. That's important. But reconciliation is also important. Naomi laughed softly. To who? Her mother's eyes flashed. Don't be flippant. I'm not, Naomi replied. I'm exhausted. Pastor Reynolds leaned forward. Naomi, sometimes forgiveness is about humility. Naomi looked at him. And sometimes it's about survival. The pastor paused. Her mother sighed. You're letting fear guide you. No, Naomi said. I'm letting clarity guide me. Silence filled the room. Finally, Pastor Reynolds stood. Perhaps this conversation needs more time. Her mother didn't look satisfied. After he left, she turned to Naomi. You're destroying your life, she said quietly. Naomi felt the sting of tears but didn't let them fall. You're trying to control it. Her mother shook her head. I'm trying to protect you. From what? Naomi asked. Her mother hesitated, then said the truth. From ending up alone. There it was. The fear beneath everything. Naomi softened, not in agreement, but in understanding. I'd rather be alone, she said gently, than trapped. Her mother looked at her like she didn't recognize her anymore. That night, Naomi packed a bag. Nothing dramatic, just essentials. She texted Jaemin. Naomi, I think I need some space. Somewhere neutral. He replied almost immediately, Jaemin, I know a place. You'll be safe there. No questions asked. She paused, then typed, Naomi, I trust you. An hour later, she stood in a quiet apartment overlooking the city. Clean, minimal, temporary. This isn't permanent, Jaemin said. Just a buffer. Naomi nodded. As he turned to leave, she stopped him. Why are you helping me? She asked. He met her eyes. Because someone once told me to stay when they should have told me to leave. Naomi understood. Later that night, Naomi checked her phone. A voicemail from her mother. Soft, crying. I don't recognize you anymore, her mother said. And that scares me. Naomi sat on the edge of the bed and listened until the message ended. She didn't call back. Outside, the city lights glowed steadily. Naomi realized something then. She wasn't losing control of her life. She was finally taking it. But she was also stepping into a world where choices came with consequences. And some people didn't forgive women who refused to stay quiet. The next move won't come from Marcus or her mother. It will come from someone who's been watching much longer than either of them realizes. The apartment Jaemin had arranged was quiet in a way that felt intentional. Minimal furniture, neutral colors, nothing personal. It was a place meant to disappear into, not settle down in. Naomi slept there the first night without dreams. The kind of sleep that comes only after exhaustion has burned everything else away. She woke before sunrise. Her phone lay on the nightstand, screen dark. No missed calls, no messages. That absence unsettled her more than the chaos had. She made coffee she barely tasted and stood by the window, watching the city wake up. Traffic crept along the streets below. People headed to work. Normal life continuing, indifferent to the fact that hers had quietly fractured. At 7:18 a.m., her phone vibrated. A single text. Unknown number. We need to talk. Not for reconciliation. For clarity. Naomi stared at it. She didn't need to ask who it was. Marcus. She typed back slowly. Naomi. Do not contact me again. 3 dots appeared. Then vanished. Then another message arrived. Unknown number. You're being advised poorly. This doesn't have to turn into something you can't undo. Naomi felt a familiar chill crawl up her spine. Undo. That word implied consequences already in motion. She didn't reply. Instead, she forwarded the messages to herself, added them to the in-case folder, and turned her phone off completely. For the first time, she understood something essential. The danger wasn't loud. It was procedural. By mid-morning, Jaemin called. Did you receive anything unusual? He asked. Yes, Naomi replied. From Marcus. A pause. Not surprise. Confirmation. He's testing boundaries, Jaemin said. Seeing what still works. And my mother? Naomi asked. Another pause. Longer this time. She's being pressured, he said carefully. Indirectly. Naomi closed her eyes. By who? By people who benefit from things staying quiet. That answer carried more weight than she wanted to unpack. Naomi, Jaemin continued. There's something else you need to know. She sat down slowly. Marcus's family has resources, he said. Legal, social, institutional. Not infinite, but enough to make things uncomfortable for someone without support. Naomi thought of the lawyer, the pastor, the phone calls. They're already doing that, she said. Yes, Jaemin agreed. But they're escalating. Naomi's grip tightened around her phone. So what happens next? That depends, he said, on whether you stay quiet. The line went silent for a moment. And if I don't? Naomi asked. Then they'll try to make you look unstable, Jaemin replied. Reactive. Difficult. Someone who can't be trusted with her own narrative. Naomi laughed bitterly. They've been doing that my whole life. I know, he said softly. That's why this works. After the call ended, Naomi sat alone with that truth. This wasn't about Marcus wanting her back. It was about punishment. The first public consequence came 2 days later. Naomi was called into her manager's office just before lunch. Have a seat, her manager said. closing the door behind her. Naomi's stomach tightened. "We've received a complaint," her manager continued, sliding a printed email across the desk. "From an external contact." Naomi scanned it quickly. Vague language, concern for professionalism, allegations of emotional instability. No names, just implication. "Do you know anything about this?" her manager asked. Naomi looked up. "Yes." She chose not to lie. "My ex-boyfriend is attempting to discredit me," she said evenly. "After I cut contact." Her manager studied her carefully. "Is there documentation?" Naomi nodded. "Extensive." The silence that followed was heavy but not hostile. "Bring it to HR," her manager said finally. "And Naomi, be careful. Careful." The word followed her everywhere now. That afternoon, Naomi left work early and went straight to the apartment. She locked the door behind her and leaned against it, breathing hard. This was what escalation looked like. Quiet, polite, institutional. Her phone buzzed. A voicemail from her mother. Naomi didn't want to listen. She did anyway. "Baby," her mother said, voice trembling. "People are asking questions. Church. At work. This is getting out of hand. Please just talk to Marcus. Just once. For me." Naomi deleted the message, then immediately regretted it. She realized something then. Her mother wasn't just a participant anymore. She was being used. And Naomi didn't know how to protect her without surrendering herself. That night, Jaemin came by the apartment. Not unannounced. Not urgently. He knocked once and waited. When Naomi opened the door, he didn't step inside immediately. He looked at her first. Took her in. The exhaustion. The tension. "You don't have to let me in," he said. She stepped aside anyway. They sat at opposite ends of the couch. For a long moment, neither spoke. Then Naomi broke the silence. "Why are you this calm?" she asked. Jaemin folded his hands loosely. "Because panic makes people predictable." Naomi nodded. "And calm makes them dangerous." A faint smile touched his mouth. "Yes." She hesitated, then asked the question she'd been circling for days. "What exactly is your role in all of this?" Jaemin didn't deflect. "My family operates in spaces where influence matters more than legality," he said. "We don't create conflict. We manage it." Naomi absorbed that slowly. "And Marcus?" she asked. "He's used to operating without resistance," Jaemin replied. "People like that react poorly when their leverage fails." Naomi leaned back, staring at the ceiling. "So I'm leverage now," she said. "You're disruption," he corrected. "And disruption is expensive." She laughed quietly. "I didn't mean to be." "I know," he said. Silence settled again. "Naomi," Jaemin said finally, "I won't tell you what to do, but I need to be clear about something." She turned to him. "If you continue to refuse silence," he said, "this will stop being about pressure and start being about containment." Her chest tightened. "Meaning they'll try to isolate you," he said. "Professionally, socially, emotionally." Naomi thought of the email, the whispers, her mother's fear. "And you?" she asked. "What will you do?" Jaemin met her gaze. "What I always do when someone is being cornered unfairly. Which is, make sure the cost of continuing is higher than the cost of stopping." Naomi studied his face. This wasn't romance. This was alignment. The breaking point came on Sunday. Naomi was at the apartment, folding laundry, when her phone rang. Her mother. She almost didn't answer. She did. "Naomi," her mother said, breathless. "You need to come over. Now." "What's wrong?" Naomi asked. "Marcus is here," her mother whispered. "And he's angry." Naomi's heart slammed into her ribs. "Put him on the phone," Naomi said. "I can't," her mother replied. "He says you won't answer him. He says you're ruining his life." Naomi grabbed her keys. "I'm coming." She hung up and immediately called Jaemin. "I need you to stay where you are," he said as soon as she explained. "My mother is with him," Naomi snapped. "I'm not staying anywhere." There was a pause. Then, I'm sending someone. I don't want. They won't intervene unless necessary, Jaemin said calmly. But you won't go alone. Naomi didn't argue. She drove to her mother's house with her hands clenched tight around the steering wheel. When she arrived, a black sedan was already parked across the street. 2 men sat inside. They didn't look at her. They didn't need to. Inside the house, the tension was immediate. Marcus stood in the living room, pacing. Her mother sat rigidly on the couch, hands clasped. Finally, Marcus said when he saw Naomi, "We need to end this nonsense." "You need to leave," Naomi said immediately. Marcus laughed harshly. "See? This is what I'm talking about. She's unreasonable." "Marcus," Naomi said, voice steady despite her pounding heart. "You're not welcome here." Her mother stood. "Naomi, please." "No," Naomi said, turning to her. "This stops now." Marcus stepped closer. "Not touching. Invading. You don't get to do this," he said quietly. "After everything I've done for you." Naomi met his eyes. "You cheated on me. You grabbed me. You sent a lawyer after me. And now you're here, scaring my mother." Marcus's jaw tightened. "I'm trying to fix things," he said. "You're the one making it ugly." Naomi took a breath. Then she said the thing she'd never said before. "You don't control me." The room went silent. Outside, a car door closed. Marcus's eyes flicked toward the window. Then the doorbell rang. Her mother startled. "Who is that?" Naomi didn't answer. She walked to the door and opened it. One of the men from the sedan stood there. "Miss Carter," he said politely. "We're here to escort Mr. Vincent." Marcus spun around. "Who the hell are you?" The man didn't look at him. "Sir, you need to leave." "This is my girlfriend's house," Marcus snapped. Naomi's voice cut through the room. "She's not your girlfriend. And this isn't your house." Marcus looked at Naomi. Really looked at her. Something shifted in his expression. Fear. He backed up slowly. "This isn't over," he said. The man gestured toward the door. Marcus left. The car pulled away moments later. Inside, her mother sank back onto the couch, shaking. "What did you do?" she whispered. Naomi knelt in front of her. "I protected us," she said. Her mother stared at her like she was seeing her for the first time. That night, Naomi sat alone in the apartment, wrapped in a blanket she didn't remember grabbing. Her phone buzzed. A text from Jaemin. "Jaemin, you held your ground. That matters." Naomi stared at the message. For the first time in weeks, she didn't feel small. She felt solid. But she also understood something else now. This wasn't finished. Marcus had been removed from the room, not from the board, and her mother had been exposed to a truth she couldn't unsee. Power had shifted, but power never disappears quietly. The next move won't be subtle. And Naomi is no longer the only one choosing sides. Naomi didn't realize how quiet her life had become until the silence stopped feeling empty. Felt watched. The days after Marcus was escorted out of her mother's house moved strangely, like time had slowed without anyone asking it to. Naomi went back to work, sat through meetings, nodded when spoken to, contributed when required. On the surface, everything looked intact. But underneath, there was a hum she couldn't turn off. A low awareness that something had shifted and wouldn't be undone. Her phone no longer buzzed constantly. That alone should have been a relief. Instead, it felt deliberate. Her mother didn't call. Marcus didn't text. Friends didn't check in. The absence felt curated. On Thursday evening, Naomi stopped by a grocery store on her way home. It was the kind of errand she used to enjoy, wandering aisles with no urgency, picking things based on impulse. This time, she moved quickly, eyes scanning reflections in freezer doors, listening to footsteps behind her a little too closely. At the checkout counter, the cashier smiled politely and handed her the receipt. "Have a good night," she said. Naomi smiled back, then froze. The cashier leaned forward slightly, lowering her voice. "Be careful," she whispered. "He was here earlier, asking questions." Naomi's pulse jumped. "Who?" The cashier hesitated. Your ex. He showed her picture. She gestured subtly toward the security camera. Manager told him to leave. Naomi thanked her, walked to her car, and locked the doors immediately after getting inside. This was no longer theoretical. Marcus wasn't retreating. He was circling. That night, Naomi didn't call Jaemin right away. She sat with the fear first, let it rise and crest instead of shoving it down like she'd been trained to do. When she finally picked up her phone, her hands were steady. He's asking about me again, she said when Jaemin answered. Where? He asked. At a grocery store, near my apartment. A pause. Are you alone? He asked. Yes. Then listen carefully, he said. This isn't intimidation yet. It's reassurance for him. He's checking to see if you're still reachable. Naomi frowned. Reachable how? Emotionally, Jaemin replied. Physically, socially. People like Marcus escalate when they think they're losing influence. Naomi swallowed. And my mother? She hasn't spoken to me since Sunday, Naomi admitted, which scares me more than if she had. Jaemin didn't rush to reassure her. Silence is a strategy, he said. Sometimes it's guilt. Sometimes it's regrouping. Naomi closed her eyes. I don't want to live like this, she said quietly. I know, he replied. And you won't. But first, you need to stop reacting. I thought I was. You are, he said gently. Just not consciously yet. The following morning, Naomi's manager asked to speak with her again. This time, HR was present. They were careful, neutral, professional. We want to make sure you feel supported, the HR representative said. But there are concerns being raised. About my work? Naomi asked. About your stability, the woman replied. Naomi nodded slowly. By whom? We can't disclose that, her manager said. But we want to ensure there's no external pressure affecting your performance. Naomi met their eyes. There is. Silence. She continued. My ex-partner is attempting to discredit me after I cut contact. I have documentation. She slid a folder across the table. Messages. Call logs. Screenshots. The HR representative flipped through them, her expression tightening with each page. This is extensive, she said. Yes, Naomi replied. And ongoing. The meeting ended differently than it began. Not with warnings, with caution. That afternoon, Naomi received an email from HR confirming that any further communication from Marcus or his representatives should be forwarded immediately. It wasn't protection, but it was acknowledgement. That mattered. When Naomi arrived home that evening, she noticed something new. A car parked across the street. Black. Engine off. Windows tinted. It wasn't blocking anything. It wasn't obvious. It was just there. She walked past it deliberately, keys between her fingers, heart pounding. Inside her apartment, she locked the door and leaned against it. She didn't call Jaemin. Not yet. Instead, she sat at the kitchen table and opened her laptop. She added timestamps, locations, witness names, patterns. The fear was still there, but it had sharpened into focus. At 9:14 p.m., the car was gone. At 9:17, her phone rang. Her mother. Naomi hesitated, then answered. Hi, she said. Her mother's voice sounded tired. Older. I need to ask you something, she said. Okay. Who is Jaemin really? Naomi closed her eyes. Why? She asked. Because people are asking me questions, her mother replied. People I don't usually hear from. People who are concerned. Naomi exhaled slowly. Concerned about what? About you, her mother said. About who you're involved with. And what did you tell them? There was a pause. I told them I didn't know, her mother admitted. Which is true. Naomi nodded, even though her mother couldn't see it. I don't owe anyone explanations, Naomi said. You owe me one, her mother replied quietly. Naomi felt the familiar tug, but it didn't pull her the way it used to. I owe you honesty, she said. Not obedience. Another pause. Then, are you in danger? Naomi considered lying. She didn't. I don't know, she said. Her mother inhaled sharply. Then you need to stop this. This? Naomi asked. Whatever this is, her mother said. This defiance. This silence. These men showing up at my house. Naomi's chest tightened. Men? Her mother hesitated. Too long. Who came? Naomi asked. No one important, her mother replied quickly. Naomi stood up. Mom, she said, voice firm. Who came to your house? Silence. Then, Marcus's uncle. The name landed like a blow. When? Naomi asked. Yesterday. What did he want? To talk, her mother said. About misunderstandings. About family. Naomi closed her eyes. Did you let him in? Yes. Did he threaten you? No, her mother said quickly. Of course not. He was very polite. That word again. Polite. What did he say? Naomi asked. He said you're confused. That you're being influenced by someone dangerous. That you don't understand the consequences of antagonizing the wrong people. Naomi's hands curled into fists. And what did you say? She asked. I told him I just want my daughter safe, her mother whispered. Naomi's voice softened. Not in surrender, but clarity. Mom, she said. You are not protecting me by talking to them. I'm trying to help, her mother replied. No, Naomi said gently. You're giving them access. Her mother was quiet for a long time. Then, what do you want me to do? Naomi swallowed. Nothing, she said. That's the hardest part. After the call ended, Naomi stood in her kitchen, heart racing. They were moving closer. Not to her. Through her. She called Jamin. They went to my mother, she said. I know, he replied. Naomi's breath caught. You know? They tried me first, he said calmly. That stopped her. They reached out, he continued. Indirectly. Asking questions. Making assumptions. And, Naomi asked, and I made it clear that involving family crosses a line, he said. Naomi sank into a chair. Did they listen? Jamin was quiet for a moment. They heard, he said. Whether they listen remains to be seen. What happens now? Naomi asked. Now, he said. They decide whether the cost of pressure outweighs the benefit. Naomi laughed softly. I don't feel like a cost. You are, he replied. You always were. You just didn't know it. The following weekend, Naomi didn't leave the apartment. She cooked, cleaned, organized, anything to keep her hands busy. On Sunday evening, there was a knock. One knock, firm, controlled. Naomi checked the door camera. A man stood outside, mid-50s, expensive coat, calm expression. She didn't recognize him. Her phone buzzed. A text from Jamin. Jamin, do not open the door. Naomi's heart pounded. The man knocked again. Miss Carter, he called through the door. I only want to talk. Naomi stayed silent. I represent interests that would prefer resolution over escalation, he continued. We don't need to involve lawyers, or employers, or families. Naomi felt her stomach twist. We can make this go away, the man said. But you have to cooperate. Her phone buzzed again. Jamin, stay where you are. Naomi didn't move. Minutes passed. Finally, footsteps retreated. The door camera feed showed the man walking away calmly, getting into a car Naomi had never seen before. Naomi exhaled shakily. This was no longer about Marcus. This was about influence. That night, Naomi sat across from Jamin in the same quiet apartment where she'd first taken refuge. You understand now, he said. Yes, Naomi replied. They don't want me back. No, he agreed. They want you quiet. Naomi met his eyes. And if I'm not? Jamin leaned back slightly. Then things stopped being polite. Naomi didn't flinch. I'm not going back, she said. I know, he replied. She took a breath. Then tell me the truth, Naomi said. All of it. Jamin studied her for a long moment. Once you hear it, he said, there's no pretending you don't. Naomi nodded. I'm done pretending. Jaemin spoke slowly. About leverage. About reputation. About how families like Marcus's protected their own by discrediting dissent. About how women who refused silence were labeled unstable. About how power didn't need violence to be effective. Naomi listened. Not with fear. With recognition. This isn't about me anymore, she said when he finished. No, Jaemin replied. It hasn't been for a while. Naomi stood and walked to the window, looking out at the city lights. I won't disappear, she said. Jaemin joined her. Good, he said. Because neither will they. Naomi understood then. This wasn't a story about rescue. It was a story about refusal. And the people who couldn't tolerate it. Outside, the city moved as it always had. Inside, Naomi felt something solid take root. Not safety. Resolve. Because the moment she stopped trying to survive quietly, everything changed. And someone, somewhere, had just realized she wasn't going to stay manageable. Before we continue, take a second and do this with intention. If you've ever stayed quiet to keep the peace, if you've ever been told to be patient when your instincts were screaming, if you've ever realized too late that silence was never neutral, hit the like button and subscribe. This part isn't just a story. It's a mirror. Naomi learned that power rarely announces itself. It doesn't slam doors or raise its voice. It waits. It applies pressure softly, patiently, until resistance feels pointless and compliance feels easier than courage. The week after the man knocked on her door, nothing happened. No calls, no visits, no warnings. The quiet returned, but this time, Naomi didn't mistake it for safety. She went back to work. She answered emails. She smiled when coworkers spoke to her. But she stopped oversharing. Stopped explaining herself. Stopped trying to soften truths so other people could swallow them more easily. Night, she wrote. Not in a diary. In documents. She wrote timelines. Conversations. Patterns. She wrote down every moment she'd been told she was too emotional, too sensitive, misunderstanding things. She saw it clearly now. Those words were never about her feelings. They were about her compliance. Her mother called less frequently, but when she did, her voice sounded different. Careful. Measured. You seem distant, her mother said one evening. I'm focused, Naomi replied. On what? On my life. The line went quiet. I worry about you, her mother said finally. Naomi didn't respond right away. When she did, her voice was calm. I know, she said. But worrying about me doesn't give anyone permission to control me. Her mother didn't argue. She didn't agree either. That night, Naomi stood in her apartment kitchen and realized something quietly devastating. Her mother loved her. But love didn't always mean alignment. And sometimes, choosing yourself meant accepting that not everyone would follow you there. The next move came without warning. Naomi was at work when her phone buzzed with a message from an unknown number. Unknown. You should check your email. Her stomach dropped. She opened her inbox. There it was. A company-wide message sent anonymously to senior leadership, HR, and several executives she'd never interacted with directly. It raised concerns. It used careful language. It questioned her professional judgment. No accusations. No lies she could easily disprove. Just enough smoke to make people look for fire. Naomi felt the room tilt. She stood, closed her office door, and sat down slowly. This was it. This was what escalation actually looked like. She forwarded the email to herself, then to HR, then to her manager. Then she called Jaemin. They've gone public, she said. I know, he replied immediately. I saw it 10 minutes ago. Her breath caught. How? Because the same message was sent elsewhere, he said. Different version. Same intent. Naomi closed her eyes. So what now? She asked. Now, he said. They wait to see if you panic. Naomi laughed softly, the sound sharp with disbelief. I am panicking. Yes, he said. But you're not reacting. There was a difference. At work, HR asked Naomi to take the rest of the day off, as a precaution. Not disciplinary. Not supportive. Neutral. Neutral felt like a cliff edge. She went home, shut the door, and sat on the floor with her back against it. For the first time since all this started, Naomi cried. Not quietly, not politely. She cried with anger and grief tangled together, mourning not Marcus, but the version of herself who used to believe that being reasonable would protect her. When the tears stopped, something else took their place. Clarity. Naomi stood up, washed her face, and opened her laptop. She didn't write defensively. She wrote truthfully. She drafted a statement, not public yet, not emotional, not reactive. Just facts. What happened? What followed? Who intervened? Who applied pressure? She didn't name names. She didn't need to. Patterns speak louder than accusations. When she finished, she didn't send it. She saved it and waited. 2 days later, her mother showed up at her apartment unannounced. Naomi opened the door and saw fear in her eyes. Not for Naomi, but for what Naomi had stirred. "They're saying things," her mother said immediately. "People are asking questions I don't know how to answer." Naomi stepped aside and let her in. "Who is they?" Naomi asked. "People who matter," her mother replied. Naomi nodded slowly. "That's the problem." Her mother turned sharply. "Don't be sarcastic." "I'm not," Naomi said. "I'm being honest." Her mother sat down heavily on the couch. "I raised you to be careful," she said. "To avoid trouble." Naomi sat across from her. "You raised me to survive quietly," Naomi said. "And that worked, until it didn't." Her mother's eyes filled with tears. "I don't recognize this version of you." Naomi leaned forward. "That's because you've never seen me choose myself without apology." Silence stretched between them. Finally, her mother whispered, "They said you're being influenced." Naomi nodded. "I know. Is it true?" Naomi met her gaze. "No one is controlling me. I'm just not controllable anymore." Her mother pressed her lips together, fighting emotion. "I'm scared," she admitted. Naomi softened but didn't retreat. "So am I," she said. "But fear doesn't get to make my decisions anymore." Her mother left shortly after. This time, Naomi didn't feel hollow when the door closed. She felt anchored. That night, Naomi received another message. This one wasn't polite. "Unknown. You're making a mistake you can't walk back." She stared at it for a long time. Then she replied with a single sentence. "Naomi, I already walked back once. I won't do it again." She blocked the number. Minutes later, Jaemin called. "They're getting impatient," he said. Naomi smiled faintly. "Good. You understand what comes next," he said. "Yes," Naomi replied. "They'll try to force resolution." "And?" he asked. "And I won't give it to them," she said. There was a pause. Then he said something she hadn't expected. "I need to ask you something." "Okay. When this becomes public, because it will, are you prepared for what that costs?" Naomi looked around her apartment. The quiet, the space she'd claimed. "Yes," she said, "because the cost of staying silent was already higher." Jaemin exhaled slowly. "Then we move carefully." "We?" Naomi asked. He didn't answer immediately. Then, "Only if you want to." Naomi didn't hesitate. "I want to finish this standing," she said. The following morning, Naomi woke up to headlines. Not about her. About Marcus. An investigation had been opened into unrelated business dealings connected to his family. Old partnerships. Questionable practices. Nothing Naomi had initiated. But nothing accidental either. Power doesn't like attention. By noon, the tone shifted. Emails stopped. Calls stopped. The pressure paused. Not lifted. Paused. Jaemin met Naomi that evening in the quiet apartment. "They're reassessing," he said. "Deciding how much you're worth." Naomi let out a breath. "I hate that phrasing." "I know," he replied. "But understanding it gives you leverage." Naomi looked at him. "This ends when?" she asked. He met her gaze steadily. "It doesn't," he said. "It changes." She nodded. "I can live with that." They stood in silence for a moment, side by side. Then Naomi spoke. I want to say something publicly. Jaemin didn't interrupt. Not names, she continued. Not accusations. Just my story. My truth. No drama. He studied her. That's irreversible. So was what they did to me, she replied. He nodded slowly. Then choose your moment, he said. Naomi posted the statement the next morning. No captions. No hashtags. Just words. It didn't go viral immediately. It didn't need to. People read it quietly, shared it privately, recognized themselves in it. By evening, messages started arriving. From women, from men, from people who had been told to stay quiet to keep things smooth. Thank you. I thought I was crazy. This happened to me too. Naomi read every single one. And for the first time since that night in the restaurant bathroom, she felt something she hadn't expected. Not relief, purpose. Late that night, Naomi's phone rang. An unfamiliar number. She stared at it, then answered. You've made your point, a male voice said calmly. But understand this, visibility cuts both ways. Naomi's voice was steady. So does silence. A pause. This could end badly, the voice warned. Naomi smiled faintly. It already did, she said. For the wrong people. The line went dead. Naomi stood by the window watching the city lights flicker. She knew this wasn't over. Not truly. But she also knew something else now. Something she wished she'd understood years ago. The most dangerous lie women are taught is that survival requires obedience. And the most powerful thing she'd ever done was stop believing it. If the story made you uncomfortable, that's not an accident. Growth rarely feels polite. If it made you think, that matters. If it made you see yourself, that matters more. Drop a comment and tell us. Have you ever been pressured to stay when you should have left? And if you want to see what happens next, when power stops whispering and starts demanding, make sure you're subscribed. Because Naomi's story isn't finished. It's just reached the point where walking away is no longer an option.